Hello everybody, welcome to day number 6 of the 5th Custom Mail-In Tournament. And in the first group for today, we will introduce Killer Z, Luna, Lone Star, and Sneaky Bob. As the race begins, Luna had a slight edge for just a moment, but Lone Star is out in front now, followed closely by Killer Z and Sneaky Bob. And as the lanes split up a little bit, Lone Star is still holding onto that lead, but Sneaky Bob is right behind them. And they head towards that infamous jump. Lone Star gets across, but their back end catches on the railing, causing all their speed to disappear. And Sneaky Bob lives up to their name and sneaks past them, grabbing the first victory of today. Finishing with a 12.15, Luna was able to get past Killer Z and finish in second, while Killer Z falls just short of the finish line, alongside Lone Star, who had a promising start, but one of their wheels got caught as they landed and all their speed just vanished. Sneaky Bob does finish with a decent time of 12.05. Right now, the fastest time, which was broken recently, is held by Scale Racing, who finished at one point with an 11.07. So now Sneaky Bob and Luna are the top two finishers, at least for now. As of this moment, we still don't have an undefeated racer going on to the next phase of the tournament. So if anyone's going to do it out of this group, it's got to be Sneaky Bob. And so far, they are fighting for first place with Lone Star again. As the lanes merge back together, Lone Star has a slight lead. And as they make the jump, which is a lot better for Lone Star, they do get around Sneaky Bob, who flipped over after that landing, allowing Lone Star to finish in first, and Killer Z had enough speed to finish this time, allowing them some second place points. Sneaky Bob was looking solid until they got close to that turn, and they just could not stay on their feet. Luna just did not have what was needed to get around that last bend. It looked like just about everyone had a decent landing. Luna, however, actually jumped lanes as they went over that gap. And I think that's what ultimately did them in. If you don't get back on your wheels quickly, you could lose all the speed you need to stay in the race. But that definitely helps Lone Star. And now we have two people tied for first and two people tied for second, so this is still very much anyone's game. Killer Z actually gets a nose out in front here, but Sneaky Bob and Lone Star are starting to get away from them. But Killer Z is actually staying in contention right now. It all could come down to this jump. We will see. Sneaky Bob, they all get across actually pretty well, but Killer Z is bouncing off the walls, causing them to slow down. Sneaky Bob grabs the win. Lone Star crawling to the finish line, but they do get there. Luna is very close, but they bumped into Killer Z, who had already come to a stop, and that caused them to keep from finishing themselves. And Killer Z actually had a decent landing, but like Lone Star earlier, one of their back wheels got stuck on the railing. They did at least manage to get all four back on the track, but that was already it for them by that point, due to the lack of speed needed to get across that finish line. Even with the push made by Luna, it wasn't enough. But now it's looking a bit better for Sneaky Bob and Lone Star. Let's see how this last race plays out. But no one will be coming out of this group undefeated. And Lone Star gets an early lead. Killer Z is actually falling behind a little bit. They do manage to catch up to Luna. Can they catch up to the other two? So far, Lone Star has that lead. Can they hold on to it, though? This jump may change everything. They make it across the jump without much of a problem, and now they are holding on to the lead. Sneaky Bob, however, is coming up behind them. Did not have the speed they needed, however, to pass them. And Killer Z is in a very similar scenario, getting close to the finish line, but not having what is required to get there. Meanwhile, where is Luna? We're not sure if Luna is still on the track somewhere or if they got stuck further up. And there they are. One or two racers have actually stopped there themselves recently. And now Luna has joined them in that category, but that's not necessarily a category you want to be in. And this jump has definitely thrown a lot of racers for a loop, causing performances to be shifted. But hopefully with that gap being smaller now, it won't throw them off as much. But it will be Lone Star and Sneaky Bob advancing. So let's see who will join them in the finals from this second group. And this group contains Luna, once again, Daniel MG, Wild Willie G, and Uncle Elvis. Wild Willie G is having a much more promising start than their last racer did, as they already have a decent lead over the other three. But let's see what happens when they get to that infamous waterfall jump. And here they go. Can they do it? They do. They start skidding sideways, go backwards a little bit, spin around yet again to face forward, and they're getting nudged forward, but that causes both of them to come to a complete stop. And one of the racers actually managed to find their way around them. I can't imagine that gap between them and the wall is very big, but they managed to pull it off, but we only had one finisher. Wild Willie G, with a promising start, could not get it done. But hopefully for their sake, that was just a fluke. And I believe that was Luna who got stuck back there, who wasn't even involved in the collision at all. But one finisher with a 15.36. That was Daniel MG, by the way. Uncle Elvis and Wild Willie G had a bit of a collision, and Luna did not quite get as far as the rest of them. Wild Willie G now back out in front once more. But just because they're in the lead, as you've seen plenty of times already, doesn't mean you'll stay there, especially after they get to that jump. There goes Wild Willie G making the jump, relatively clean landing, staying forward, staying off the walls for the most part until close to the end. And they do grab the win. Uncle Elvis, however, looked like they were going to get second place, but then they just went to the side, and Luna launched in front of them, grabbing second place. And then Daniel MG, who had a great finish before, especially after all the commotion, was not able to finish here. So this will be the 6th consecutive day since the tournament started without an undefeated racer. So this will definitely keep things interesting, showing that no one has a surefire bet of the overall victory yet. But with that second place finish, Luna is definitely keeping their chances alive. Let's see if they can do it again. The race begins. Luna falls behind a little bit, along with Daniel MG, while Willie G is out in front once more, but they just can't seem to get this done. At least as of now, but hopefully they can do so. After this jump, which they do pretty well, but they bounce off the walls relatively harshly. But they're so far out in front that they still manage to pull off a victory. Daniel MG managed to grab second, and Luna once more worked their way around Uncle Elvis, this time grabbing third. At least everyone was able to get across that jump. But Luna is showing themselves to be a determined fighter here. That finish definitely keeps them in this, not too far behind Daniel MG in points. They will need to finish in front of them in order to keep their time in this tournament going. And so far it doesn't look like that will happen, because look how quickly they're falling behind. but maybe some type of miracle will happen for them. Wild Willie G looking to go around that turn and then into the waterfall jump. Here they go. And they clear it. Can they stay off the walls? No, they flip over, but manage to save themselves as they go around the turn, and they still finish in first after all that. Uncle Elvis finished in second, rather, and Luna this time sneaking around Daniel MG to finish in third once more. This could be, possibly, the break that Luna needed, and we got another good look at that save by Wild Willie G. For just a moment, it looked like it was all over for them. But just as quickly as they flipped onto their backs, they managed to get back on their wheels and keep going without too much of a loss of speed. Luna nudged Daniel MG out of the way. Was it enough? It was not, but they were very close. If they managed to get in second, they would have at least been able to try for a tiebreaker. But they fell just short. So Daniel MG will join Wild Willie G in the finals alongside Lone Star and Sneaky Bob. And as this finals group begins, Lone Star takes the lead, followed closely by Wild Willie G. But now Wild has the lead, but here comes Lone Star looking to take it back, and it looks like they will. And now for the infamous jump, here they go. Lone Star actually landed on their nose a little bit, and there's a bit of a traffic jam there. Wild Willie G is pushed off the track by Sneaky Bob, who ended up finishing in second. Yes, they will, behind Lone Star. And that was definitely a bit of wacky commotion. Going around that final turn, Wild Willie G was colliding with Lone Star, and then Sneaky Bob comes up to join them, and he ultimately shoved Wild Willie G off the track. I wouldn't be too surprised if this ends up with some fisticuffs or something even worse if Wild Willie G can't keep it together, but we will see. We'll make sure to keep an eye on the racers as they step out of their vehicles once this tournament ends. But now here we go into race number 2. Wild Willie G, I imagine, is not happy with what just transpired. And you can tell that anger is fueling their driving as they take off, leaving the other racers in the dust, at least for the time being. And they go around that turn, heading into the jump. Let's see if they can stay focused for long enough. They do spin around, but they lose a lot of speed in the process. Sneaky Bob is looking to pass them, but they don't close the gap in time. They finish in second, Daniel MG in third. Lone Star fell just short. Wild Willie G almost had a very solid landing after that jump, but they started to spin as they went airborne. Thankfully for their sake, they do stay in first. Maybe they wanted to just look Sneaky Bob in the eye as they stayed in front of them going across the finish line. But now that puts Wild Willie G near the front in points, but no one has more than 6. So technically speaking, anyone could still finish in first in points depending on the scenario. Lone Star is a little bit closer to Wild Willie G this time around. And they are fighting for that lead. Let's see who holds on to it. So far it is Wild. But they go down the ramp across the gap. They go completely sideways for an extended period of time, causing them to slow down significantly. Lone Star is trying to make something happen, but they could not quite do it. So we will have 2 non-finishers this time around, in the form of Daniel MG and Sneaky Bob. I am sure Wild Willie G is laughing their head off right now. But there was definitely a bit of commotion going off the walls, even going down the ramp for Daniel MG. And I think that's what ultimately did them in. But now that puts Wild Willie G back out in front for points. Let's see who will join him at this point, because it's going to be very difficult for anyone to pass them now. But anything could happen at this point, we will see. While Willie G still has the lead, at least for now, Lone Star and Sneaky Bob fighting for second place. And so far it's in favor of Lone Star, while Willie G gets across. And thankfully doesn't bounce off the walls too much. They head towards the finish line. Lone Star and Sneaky Bob fight for second place, and Lone Star gets it. Sneaky Bob in third, Daniel MG in fourth. A great effort by all, and Daniel MG actually had a pretty clean landing going out of that jump. And they had so much speed there. Makes you wonder what would have happened if they kept that up for the entire race. But it will be Wild Willie G and Lone Star progressing to the next part of the tournament. And this is your updated roster. Thank you all so much for watching. See you all in the next day of races.